Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Oni. In this long-awaited video, I'll be sharing my full AMCAS application. This video is a part of my application series, and if you are a returning subscriber, a returning viewer, you've seen that I did promise to put out this video a long time ago. I do apologize for the delay. I had to put a pause to it because I was studying for boards and just trying to wrap up second year. You might have sent out your applications or probably in the process of sending out your applications. So, take what you can from this video. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so right here I have my AMCAS application. This is the first page. So I'm just going to make this portion quick. I sent in my application on June 5th. As you can see, this is the 2018 application because I was applying for the class of 2019. And I applied quite early. The verification process was completed by the 22nd of June, so that's about 2 weeks. So I was told by my admissions office at the time to not send in the application on the first day the AMCAS website opens up for submission, because usually a lot of people are sending in their applications at that time, and it's easy for the website to crash, and you do not want your application to be a part of that. Again, take this with a grain of salt. I was just told this, and so I didn't want that to happen to me. So I did send it on the 5th of June, and it got processed on the 22nd of June. The earlier you send in your application, I believe the faster the verification process, and then your schools can start getting in your application as early as July. It takes about a month for verification, but mine took about 2 weeks. So yeah, you do want to make sure you account for that. I think the later that you send in your application, the longer it takes for the whole thing to be verified. And as we're going through this, I will explain some of the things that made my application verification fast, according to the things I've been told by my pre-med advisor. So that's kind of all I think I wanted to mention here, and I did black out a couple things because these are a little bit more personal. I am an international student, so I did put it on there that I'm an F1 student. This is important. If you're an international student, you do not want to go saying that you're not, so that you can have the right documentation. You do want to get an I-20 from the school that you're applying to. So the next page, basically similar things, just more information. I don't think there's anything worth mentioning. International students do not qualify for the URM. So even though that, yes, you probably did grow up in a third world country, in an underdeveloped country, you do not qualify for the underrepresented minors. So you can't really include that because you're international. But I did state here that in terms of being underserved, that yes, because I have grown up in an underserved environment. And so yeah, there really isn't much on here to know. It's just basic information. It might take you about an hour or less actually to just put in that information. So I think one of the more important portions of the AMCAS application is your academic record. It takes a long time to put these in. This portion is extremely important. The reason the verification process takes long is because of this portion, because they have to look at your transcript as well as what you've put down on your application, and they have to make sure that everything coincides. So you do not want to have any discrepancy between what you're putting on here and what's on your transcript. So I probably went through this a couple times, just making sure that everything was the same. The first classes that you see on here would be, straight from freshman year. So as you can see, this is freshman year. Now what they do, I'm just gonna move myself up here. What they do is Amcas is gonna generate a grade for you. So sometimes I think their grading system is A minus, B plus, B minus, all of that stuff. So they're going to generate that for you. Not all schools do the A minus, A plus, all of that. I'm not really sure how Amcas is able to translate that into their system. I'm not entirely sure if they do translate it, but I do know that because not all schools have the same grading system, they try to generate it into their Amcas grade so that everything is equal, so that all schools have the same or an equivalent grading system. So yeah, I just wanted to mention because your GPA might look a little different from what it is on your transcript. So yeah, freshman year was a pretty good year. I have shared my transcript on a different video. I'm going to put the link on here. It's just a video on how to, improve your chances of getting a 4.0 GPA. I shared my transcript on there. Also shared my GPA and Mcat scores in this video, so go ahead and check that out if you want to see those. But I will be repeating some of those information on here as well. So if you just go down, let me move myself down here a little bit. Okay, so again, these are just all my classes for freshman year. Moving on to sophomore year, as you can see, I put in everything as much as I could. I did get a C in a class, and because this was in calculus, I wanted to show that I'm still capable of handling math. And so I went ahead after getting my C and I took a course in statistics. So this was an honors class, and gratefully, I was able to get an A+ in that class. And so I was hoping that this A+ would help show admissions officers, if they were really strict about the calculus or they were really bothered about the calc, just to show that I am capable with math. The only kind of math that you're going to encounter is really biostats. That's kind of the most math that you have, and so doing some kind of stats does help with that class. You don't necessarily have to, of course. So yeah, that's pretty much what my grades are looking like. And again, like I mentioned, you want to make sure that you're putting every single thing correctly. One more thing I will mention is that the AMCAS, again, takes in everything on your transcript. So if you happen to take a course, let's say general chemistry, and you failed that course, you got an F or you got a D, and you decided to retake that course and end up scoring like an A, I do believe most schools will replace that D grade with your A grade. However, AMCAS doesn't do that. So what they do is, instead of replacing it, they're going to take the average. So if you scored like a D the first time and then you had an A the second time, you're probably going to score maybe around like a low B, maybe B-. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it's going to end up being like an average of 2. So just, be aware of that. Maybe things might have changed, so do correct me if things have changed, but at the time I was applying, that's definitely something that was done. I do believe there's an option where you can choose, this is a repeat course, and it's easier for AMCAS to review that as a repeat so that they can put that into your GPA. You want to make sure you're putting it right, okay? If there is any sort of discrepancy, guys, that's what tends to delay the verification process, and that would hurt you in the long run. So just make sure you're putting everything in the correct way. Okay, so that's it for my grades, and then this is where they pretty much calculate your GPA. Like I've shared this in my previous videos, but yeah, my science GPA, I think this is what this is, was a 3.7. My non-science GPA is what this is, was a 3.88, and my total GPA was a 3.77. I am very proud of my GPA. It wasn't easy to get, so I'm very proud of that GPA. However, I will say average GPA is like for med school, MD schools is about a 3.72, and for DO schools is about a 3.54, I believe. I'm a little bit higher for the MD and much higher for the DO schools. However, I will mention that my pool is not the same as everyone else's. I am an international student, and so that changes things by a lot. Even though my GPA does show a 3.77, I believe the average GPA for international students who are applying into medical schools in the US is about a 3.8 something from the last time that I checked. So my GPA was a little bit less than the average for international students into MD schools. I would say for DO schools I'm not quite sure, because there isn't really that much information on like international students and DO medical schools in the US. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that yes, my GPA is pretty decent compared to the average for everyone applying, but my pool isn't the same as everyone applying. I wasn't too bothered by my GPA. My problem was with the Mcat score. Like I have mentioned a couple times, I had a 504 in my Mcat. I was just tired of retaking it. I didn't want to do it again, even though I did have some time between September 2017 and when I actually sent my application in 2018. I had some time, but I was over taking the Mcat. I couldn't do it again. So I decided to apply with what I had. So the major issues for me were my Mcat score and my critical reading score. Now let's get into the activity section. Now this section is actually very important, guys. It's important to take the time to write about it. I know, people focus a lot more on the personal statement, but remember that you are trying to show yourself to the admissions committee. You want them to read your application and be like, yes, like I have an idea of what the student is, because think about it. Each admissions officer is probably getting like maybe 30 applications to go through a day. Now this is 30 different individuals they need to get to know, they need to get to understand, so there's a lot of people. This is the only opportunity that you have before they get to see you in person to show your best self, present yourself the best way that you can. Since you might feel like, oh, my experiences, there really isn't much to show, like this is what everybody else does, like how do I make this a little bit different. You can share personal stories, you can share personal things that you did, you can talk about how those experiences made you feel, instead of just saying, I did this, I worked for a certain organization, I learned da 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 da. You can switch it up and make it a story. So while I was writing out a list of my activities, trying to reflect on everything I'd done, I realized that a lot of the activities that I had done were geared towards working with underserved or in underserved communities, either locally or globally. And I promise you, while I was joining these activities, it wasn't at the back of my head. I didn't realize that's kind of like what a lot of my activities were geared towards until I started writing this down, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is a good theme that I see, and it does fit because of where I grew up, and so it was easy for me to write my application in a certain way. I do believe that when people read my application, what they knew about me was, oh, this is Oni, she is Nigerian, she's an international student, she cares a lot about health equality, health equity, and just bridging the health gap in underserved communities, both locally and globally. I feel like that was like a general theme for me, because that's kind of what my activities showed and what my personal statement showed, and just everything made sense by the time I brought them together, as that was my theme. And so when I went into my interviews, that was brought up quite frequently. It's just, tell me about your background, tell me about growing up, tell me about moving into the country, what it was like, tell me about your activities. It was geared towards that was what they knew about me. And so when they're looking at me, they're like, okay, we want to have this person in this school because this is what they bring to the table. So of course, if that's not your theme, you could, let's say maybe you're interested in women's health and you've done a lot of work with women's health. When they're reading your application, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this student is women's health and this person is this. And so they know where to place you as an applicant, and they're thinking about you in that way, like this is what this person is going to bring to the table. This is what makes this person different from the rest of their applicants. So it could be women's health that you're interested in. It could be, related to LGBTQ IA+ community, just something that makes you different. And it does show in your application that this is something that you're interested in. I feel like I said a lot of things, but I do hope that what I'm saying does make sense. So that was pretty much the mindset I had at the time when I was applying. In my head, I'm like, let me give them a story. And so even though I did have low chances, I really do feel like my activities section and my personal statement were huge in getting me or granting me interviews. Okay. I'm going to be sharing like specific examples of experiences and just kind of how I wrote about them, so that I do not make this video too long. But if you're interested, feel free to pause and just read through. So this is just research that I had. I really didn't have like a full research lab sort of experience, that would eventually lead to a paper and publishing a paper and everything. I went to Pitt, and Pitt does give you a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of research that happens in the school, so you do have the opportunity to apply and get research, especially scientific research. But I really didn't do as much of that. However, I had a research experience as one of my most meaningful experiences, and the reason it was a meaningful experience for me is because the research involved animal training and animal surgeries. I enjoyed it. It was a unique experience for me, and I realized that I loved working with my hands. If I'm going to do anything medicine, I probably will look into either surgery or specialties that encourage a lot of procedures, even though I haven't really started rotations yet. But I do know this is something that I'm interested in. So even though it was a research experience, what I got from it was totally different from what most people might get from research. And I made that clear as to why it was a meaningful experience for me. Because I do know most people have research. Some schools require that you actually have research before applying into their schools. So I had a research class. It was a biology lab class, biology lab 2. But in my college at Pitt, it was called a special lab. And so it's called special because you actually do research. At the end of that lab, you're gonna make a poster and then present that poster on research day. So that's kind of what it was. And so that was the first time that I ever made a poster. I wrote about that somewhere here. So I wrote about that here. And again, the reason that I did this is just to show, that I have skills in this. I've worked, I did PCR, gel electrophoresis, restriction digest, mini prep. We used research softwares like GeneWiz and APE. And then at the end of the semester, I created and presented my research poster to both staff and students of the university. So I just wanted to show that, even though I don't have a published paper, I have some experience with research and poster presentation, which is again different from, this portion where it's like this experience showed me that I love working with my hands, and this subsequently deepened my passion for surgery and medicine. So it's two totally different things, but they're both research. All right. And then that's one of my meaningful experiences. I had 3 meaningful experiences. You have the opportunity to put in 3. So I talked about the research, leadership experience that I had. This was big for me because I was a co-founder of this organization, co-founded with my friend. She was Indian. She did mention an organization called Akshaya Patra, and that was like a non-profit organization. They provided midday meals to children who would not be able to like go to school and provide, have meals for themselves daily. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people from third world countries or underdeveloped countries can relate to. So this was something that I enjoyed doing, and we did raise a lot of money, and so it's just something that I'm proud of. So it was a meaningful experience for me. Feel free to read this on your own time so you see how I wrote about things. Yeah. And I think the last one that I did talk about was tutoring, because that's just something that I've been doing for a time, and I still do. I'm still a tutor. I spent my gap year tutoring, so that's just something that I do. And of course, take your time and read through that if you're interested in knowing how I wrote about it. And here is just shadowing opportunity that I had, because you don't really do much in the hospitals really when you're a volunteer. You just provide food, water, when needed. Sometimes you're working on the front desk, trying to control traffic. You might help a couple patients with bathroom needs. I didn't have any personal experience with anybody in, when I volunteered here in the US, to be quite specific. And then I put in just a couple of words, and like I mentioned, being on the dean's list, even though, a lot of people applying with high GPA probably were on the dean's list, but it doesn't hurt to put that on there. So, again, I'm trying to put out my best self. This is the only opportunity that I have to do that. So if there's anything that I feel is noteworthy or something that might be like, okay, at least she has this, I'm going to put that on there. So I did put the dean's list. I did mention that I graduated summa cum laude, because summa cum laude at Pitt, I think it was 3.75 and above. I know that's a little bit less compared to other schools. I know most schools are like 3.9 for summa, but I don't know why it's different, but yay me. So I was able to put that on there as well. Yeah, and I mentioned my student work. I was working throughout college. I did speak about my hobbies. I talked about cooking and baking. Again, I am showing myself out here, guys. I'm going to put in everything that I can possibly put in, because I want them to see that aside from medical school, I have other things that I do on the side that I enjoy doing. Another thing that I will mention that came up a lot, actually, was modeling. I'm not even a model like that. I just was part of these shows. But yeah, when I did put this, it's just like, this is something that I enjoy doing. So I'm only mentioning this because, some people might love painting, you might love photography, your whole life is in medicine. Medicine is just a part of your life. Being pre-med is just a part of your life. So feel free to show other parts of you, because other things that you do would, this is what would make you stand out, is what will make you look unique or different. So again, when I was writing this, I honestly wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna stand out with this. No, but I'm mentioning this right now because this came up more times than I assumed it would. I do remember one of my interviews, like they were taking pictures of everyone who came in, and when they saw me, they were like, oh, that's her model. Stand there, give us, some poses. And I'm like, who? Who's the model? Like, what do you mean that's my model? I was confused. I mean, just by hearing my name, you already know this. Like, they were like, this is the model. So you stand there and give us poses. That's kind of exactly how it was. And I was just shocked that they really knew me like that. So again, I'm only saying this because you may never know, but put it on there. Just put your best stuff out there. That's kind of pretty much how I wrote about my application. Like I said, I tried to make it I made it into a theme. I don't know if I had 15 experiences in total, but I do know that you have like 15 spots to put in your experiences. You don't need to put everything in there. You know, choose the ones that would tell a story about you, just something about you that makes you a little bit different from everybody else. I know it can be hard because we all do the same things, right? Everybody applying to medical school needs to have some sort of clinical experience. There's a lot of things that are similar amongst all medical school applicants, but there's some things that you're interested in that you've probably done on the side just because you're interested in them. It could literally be a hobby, right, that you've just put in a lot of time in, or it could be a side thing that you do work. It could literally be braiding hair. It could be anything that you could speak about and have that time to just makes you a little bit different from everybody else who's applying. Of course, it's not only you that may do hair. It's not only you that does photography. I may not be only you who, say, has a YouTube channel, right? There could be a couple of people, but those people might not be applying to the same schools that you're applying to. So you might end up being maybe 1 out of 2 with this experience. And because of that, they may want to meet you in person to see what else you could bring to the table. So don't shy away from showing whatever that you do that's outside of medicine. In fact, it's encouraged that you show those parts of you that are a little bit different from everybody else applying. Having different backgrounds, having different experiences is very important. And this is something that I say specifically to my international students. Yes, being an international student applying to medical school is a struggle. It does hurt your application to be international, but you can also use that to your advantage. You're an international student, which means that you grew up in a whole different environment than most people who are applying. It means that, you know, you're different. You grew up in a different environment. You grew up in a different country. So use that to your advantage because you have something to bring to the table that a good number of people don't. What is it that made you come all the way to the US to pursue medicine? How were your experiences when you moved into this country? A lot of the times we tend to minimize how hard it is, how hard it was adjusting. I will speak for myself at a young age because I did moving when I was 17. At that age, you know, I've always been home. I've never really left home, and you know, I've minimized it because I have friends who also moved. So it's like, it's not that deep, but I know I did minimize a lot of my experiences. So when I was talking about it, I was a little bit like shy to share a lot or share things. It would be like I might give a sob story, like, but no, because a lot of those experiences are what shaped you, you know, to do the things you're doing or to be where you are at or to even want to go into medicine. So do not shy away from those topics. Some of it might sound cliche, but it is your truth. Again, I'm only highlighting this because like it's a sensitive topic. Some people are like, don't write about it. Some people are like, write about it. In my own case, I wrote about it because it did shape my experiences here. Further heightened my, you know, want for medicine. So I didn't shy away from talking about it. Questions about that was brought up on my interviews. And I knew when I stepped out that I was going to get in. Like I knew because the interviews were so good. I'm like, I just don't see them not picking me after this. So, you know, yes, it does hurt you to be international because most schools would not accept you, but it also helps because the ones who take you in have the resources for you. They want to hear about that story. They want you to talk about your experiences. Those experiences, that story that you're shying away from is something that may touch 1 or 2 people on your interview. I'm not saying, you know, have sub stories everywhere. In fact, I'm not saying to have any sub story anywhere. I'm really not saying that, but I'm saying when you're sharing a story, if it's something that has influenced how you are today or something that has absolutely influenced your love for medicine or your need to go into the medical field, do not shy away from talking about it. I will talk about my interviews in a coming video. And my personal statement, I'm going to read it out in my next video. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Absolutely subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. I just don't want to make this video too long. But on a separate video, I'll be reading out my personal statement. So yeah, that's technically it with my experiences portion. This is the last page. So yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, if there's any other videos you want me to make, please, or any questions you have for me, please leave that in the comment section. I do respond to every comment that comes through. If you want your question to be more private, feel free to reach out to me on her med series on Instagram. I do respond as quickly as I can. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, guys. Leave a thumbs up. It does help me. It does encourage me to continue making these videos. Just knowing that, you know, this is helpful for you. Leave it in the comment section if this is helpful for you. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. I wish you the very best of luck in your application cycle. All you need is one school to say yes to you, and you are a medical doctor. And you do deserve to be here. So do not get discouraged through this process. Know it's a long process, but you're gonna make it. It's gonna be worth it. And yeah, that's all I can say. So I'll catch you guys in my next video. Hope you guys stay safe and stay blessed.